Good morning, guys. My name is Mackenzie Thomas, and today I will be talking about why inmates should not be held in solitary confinement. Imagine being in a room no bigger than a walk-in closet. Now imagine being in that same room for 23 hours out of a 24-hour day. No one else, just you. Sadly, this is the reality for the 80,000 inmates that are held in solitary confinement across our nations. Although some feel that this is a justifiable means of punishment, it is in fact detrimental to the health of prisoners. Solitary confinement is an inhumane source of punishment. This image right here shows what an average solitary confinement cell would look like. They're usually 6 by 8 feet, and the prisoners will spend 23 of their hours in this cell. The only hour that they spend outside of the cell is not even with human contact, whether they're still in a cage, but they're just out in the open. Fortunately, this cell has like a window, but most cells do not have natural light, and the maintenance on the cells aren't kept up well. To pass time, the inmates will usually just sleep or eat, or if they have a book, they'll read it, but there's not much that they can do when they're in these types of cells. Solitary confinement is known to have a very severe impact on an inmate's mental state. Inmates are known to have anxiety attacks, paranoia, depression, and extreme hallucinations. Most inmates aren't capable of functioning in a normal society once experiencing this type of environment. And because it's so overwhelming to them, most do end up committing suicide. And as of now, solitary confinement is the unit that has the highest rate of suicide and self-harm out of all units in jails across the U.S. Not only does solitary confinement affect inmates' mental health, it also affects their physical health. Inmates are known to lose weight at a more increased speed, and they say that they have abdomen pains and neck pains because they're stationary for so long in these types of cells. They can develop hypertension, migraines, and have sensory deprivation. Solitary confinement is not only a threat to the inmates that it's personally happening to, but it's also a threat to the inmates that are in the jail environment. Former inmate Anthony Graves talked about how people who came out of solitary confinement would go out into the courtyard and urinate and spread feces in the presence of the other prisoners. Others would be so overwhelmed with coming back into that type of society that they would become violent. Now, I agree that the jail system should have a type of punishment for jailers that are not following the rules. However, I don't feel solitary confinement is a punishment that should be offered. Instead, they can do things like forfeit good time, which means that if the prisoner was doing well and behaving well, they could get out of jail early. But if they were to break the rules, they would forfeit having that. They could lose privileges, have longer work hours. So if they were working in the kitchen that night, they would have to have like an extra hour of doing the dishes versus their normal time that they would have. They can have a loss in participation on programs, take away personal property such as books, CD players, or have a delay in their parole date. Now, I know you're probably asking yourself, how can I, a college student, help? But there's actually many ways that you can help. One way is by writing to your state senator, expressing your feelings towards the injustice acts that solitary confinement causes. In conclusion, solitary confinement is an inhumane source of punishment that does more harm than it does good. Many prisoners don't recover from the lasting effects that it causes. However, if we all do our part, it one day can be abolished. Our state constitution states criminals can't be subjected to cruel and unusual punishments. So I ask you one final question. Why is solitary confinement allowed? Thank you.
My sources.